Ooh, I've never felt so good about my wardrobe choice. Let's make this show pop. Welcome back to Odd Man Sports, brought to you by DraftKings. I'm your host, Brandon Perna. I'm also the host of That's Good Sports, right here on YouTube. On this week's show, we'll break down a couple of key matchups, including Tom versus Time, and Coach Ed Orgeron versus the ex-coach of Oregon. And I'll share the one impressive statistic in which Seth Curry actually has surpassed his brother Steph. Dinks and Dunks. Well, the wait is over. The NFL season is finally here. Yes! And the opening kickoff on Thursday marks an important milestone. It is the official end of talking about your fantasy team. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if my friends prefer hearing about my actual bedroom fantasies more than my fantasy football team at this point. Both which weirdly involve D. Virgin and Nick Foles. In game 1 of 544, it's Dallas at Tampa in a battle of a 44-year-old seemingly in perfect health versus a 28-year-old whose limbs may or may not be held together with duct tape. Earlier this week, Tom Brady revealed he likely contracted COVID during the Bucs Super Bowl festivities. As for how he knew he had the illness, Brady said, "I was eating ice cream and I didn't want to immediately purge myself." College football also got underway this week, and I'll be honest, there was something about seeing those packed stadiums that felt like a less complicated pre-pandemic times. At Camp Randall, Wisconsin, students were back to jumping around. Meanwhile, in Iowa, we saw the return of the Kinnick Wave, the wonderful tradition in which the entire stadium, at the end of the first quarter, waves to the patients in the Iowa Children's Hospital. And I'll probably regret saying this, but am I the only person who's not totally on board with this tradition? And not because I don't find it touching and sweet, because I do. It's just ever since Hawkeyes fans started doing this in 2017, every other college football tradition, by comparison, feels sort of trite and insignificant. Oh, you guys bounce up and down to 90s hooligan rap? That's nice. We pause to acknowledge sick children. Ohio State fans claim the dotting of the I is the #1 tradition in college sports. Really? Really? Better than waving to kids with cancer? I don't think so. Turning to other college football news, in week 1, UCLA upset LSU 38-27. Handing Ed Orgeron and the Tigers their second straight season opening loss. And before the game, Coach O was caught on camera having this amusing interaction with the Bruins fan.
Bring your ass on! Bring your ass on, you little sissy blue shirt!
Masculinity. That's right, because there's nothing more macho than ordering another man to bring his ass on. Also, and I don't want to start a color war, but maybe, just maybe, the coach of the purple team doesn't really want to call out the sky blue team for their effeminate color scheme. Just a thought. Speaking of purple, it's wedding season in the NBA, and this month saw the union of Danny Green and Damian Lillard. Hey guys, I don't think they married each other. I feel like that would have been a bigger story. Now, Lillard's high-profile bash featured performances from Snoop Dogg and Common, while Green's party included scantily clad women pouring champagne from the rafters. Though my personal favorite part was an appearance by who or whatever this was. Eat your salads, kids, or the salad man will haunt your dreams. And while both weddings also featured conventional traditions like the father-daughter dance, I'll tell you what neither included: a single wave in the direction of a hospitalized child. Shame. Shame on all of you. In other NBA news, Green's 76ers teammate Seth Curry made an interesting appearance on the Linus Tech YouTube channel. The younger Curry brother was assisted in building a PC computer from scratch while sharing some NBA stories.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Oh, I love funny stories. And this episode could really use a few more laughs.
We were in the bubble, and the first 2 days, the internet was horrible. Everybody was trying to get on. It was horrible. So I complained, and the next day they were setting up better Wi-Fi, and they got it done.
The Wi-Fi was bad, and they fixed it? I'm not sure if that qualifies as funny, or even as a story, but I will give Seth credit for one thing: becoming the first player in NBA history to ever ask another person a question.
Well, actually, what sports do you watch?
Do you promise not to laugh?
Let me hear it.
I'm following Olympic badminton very closely. I'm a big badminton fan.
Wow.
In super unfunny news, former Heisman Trophy winner Herschel Walker made this big announcement this month.
My name is Herschel Walker, and I'm running for the United States Senate.
And while some in the Peach State are questioning how a life on the gridiron could prepare Walker for a Senate seat, I've got another reason Georgians might think twice before pulling the lever for him. Now, as he wrote in his 2008 book, Herschel Walker claims to suffer from a personality disorder, which can manifest in some truly scary ways. Here he is talking about thinking of murdering a man who was late delivering a car.
All I could think was how satisfying it would feel to squeeze the trigger, the visceral enjoyment I'd get from seeing the small entry wound and the spray of brain tissue and blood like a 4th of July firework exploding behind him.
But it was the serendipitous bumper sticker that saved the delivery man that day. Because according to Herschel Walker, when I got out of the car, I saw a sign on the back of his truck that said, "Honk if you love Jesus." And that calmed me down. I always wondered why people would put something on their car that encourages this sound. But now I am realizing that that's a price people are willing to pay for the odd chance they're being trailed by a religious nut who might happen to see it and think twice before pumping their car full of lead. Anyways, call me old-fashioned, but I'm a yes on Herschel Walker, greatest college football player of all time, and a hard no on Herschel Walker, state senator. And finally, speaking of religion and sports, it was announced that future megachurch pastor Tim Tebow will join Stephen A. Smith every Friday at 10 a.m. on First Take. That's right, finally, ESPN has its appointment television. As in now I know exactly when to schedule all of my kids' doctors and dentist appointments. We've got money talks. Now this week it was announced that the Buccaneers Pro Bowl wide receiver Mike Evans agreed to restructure his contract, a move that cleared $8.94 million in cap space for the team. This maneuvering was hinted all the way back in February by the Bucs head coach.
Bruce Arians is confident it will happen thanks to some players willing to take less. Arians said, quote, "Mike Evans is the most unselfish superstar I've ever met. He's told us to use some of his money if we need to do contracts to keep the team together."
Wow. In an era of me, it sure sounds like Mike Evans is the rare athlete willing to sacrifice his own money for the betterment of the team. And the fans on Twitter, well, they ate it up with a spoon, a big spoon, calling Evans the ultimate team player, unselfish, and such a team guy, even going so far as to ask, how can you not love this man? Now, I'm not saying Mike Evans isn't deserving of love, but I hate to break it to you, Kiki Sports 1013, but your salary cap understanding is a little hazy. By restructuring, Evans is not taking $8.94 million less. In fact, he isn't taking $1 less. According to Bucs reporter Greg Auman, this restructuring of salary to bonuses means that Evans just gets money now that he would have gotten in each paycheck this fall. Same money, No more, no less, just getting it sooner. Mike Evans may be an unselfish person. He may have given Johnny Manziel a career, but it's not because of this gesture. In fact, the next athlete who gives back a single dollar on his contract will be the first, as far as I know. Back in 2004, A-Rod actually tried to take less to facilitate a trade from the Rangers to the Red Sox, and the Players Union squashed it, basically saying, "Nah, he tweaking." Is that still a thing? Let me know in the comment section. Recently, there were rumors that Damian Lillard offered to give back salary to help the Blazers trade him. And just so we can put to bed the notion of athletes giving back salary once and for all, this was Dame's stone cold response.
Can I ask if you would do that?
If I would do what?
Actually give back money off of your current contract.
Why would I do that?
Odd man out. Last year, due to quarantine, we missed out on so many things we'll never get back. Birthdays, graduations, dinner with family members you hate. But maybe the biggest loss of all, the NFL's annual London game. But not to worry, after a year off, it's game on, baby. This year in week 6, the Dolphins will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have played in historic Wembley Stadium every year since 2013. Now, why is Jacksonville always tapped for the London game? Much like, why is Dak Shepard famous? Nobody seems to really know. From the outside, the pairing of a historical European city and a fairly recent American expansion team is kind of like if Prince Harry was married to one of the actresses from Suits. But for some reason, every season the Jags pack their bags and hop across the pond to give Londoners a taste of our crappiest American football, which might not be the best way to sell the game. Kind of like a knife salesman who's like, "I know these are super dull right now, but trust me, the sharp ones, oh, they cut really well." Have there been any great moments from any of these Jaguars London games? Damned if I can remember any. The only thing I actually remember is the time in 2018 that 4 Jaguars players were arrested for skipping out on a $64,000 bar tab. Now the Jags over-under, according to DraftKings, is 6.5. And maybe, more than any bet on the board, I love the under. Get your bet in before the odds shift after they lose to the Texans in week 1. As for the London game, Jags owner Shad Khan wrote this: "With Urban Meyer as our head coach, we'll be arriving with an entirely new look and attitude that I'm confident will meet the approval of our Union Jack supporters." I hate to break it to you, Shad, but while Meyer may be a great leader of men, he's 100% no nonsense. He's not going to sip tea with the Queen or do any bits where he tries to guess the meanings of British slang. On the spectrum, Urban is way closer to Ted Bundy than Ted Lasso. Of course, the shadow of COVID adds an extra dose of absurdity to this already absurdist exercise of trying to win the hearts and minds of the British people. Because think of the logistical headache of flying hundreds of personnel to another continent during a pandemic, which ought to be fun for a coach who literally had to retire because of headaches. Urban Meyer isn't going to last 2 seasons in Jacksonville, not because he's going to get fired, but because the Jaguars are going to kill him. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the show, take a moment to like and subscribe here to this YouTube channel, and be sure to check out the greatest sportsbook in all of the lands, DraftKings. For all of your betting action, they even have a nice little promo code, ODDMAN, where they match your first deposit up to $1,000, which is pretty dang neat. So, I'll see you winners next week.